Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Boys Season 5, Episode 6 video. There are a whole bunch of WTF moments, Easter eggs, so we will break it all down. You can really tell the show wants Homelander to feel like he's become completely unstoppable, so what are the boys going to do to actually try and stop him now? The episode title was Though the Heavens Fall, which is a reference to the title of issue 58 of the comics. The phrase also appears engraved on the 7 sculpture at Vought Tower reading Fiat Justia Ruit Caelum, which roughly translates to Let Justice Be Done Though the Heavens Fall. There was also a joke on the website for the description of the episode about buying a deep theme popcorn bucket at VMC Theaters, which is a parody of AMC Theaters, which they're selling at the theater where the legend works. In real life, we've kind of been living in a popcorn bucket reality the last couple of years. Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them completely ridiculous, but it's hard to tell how much longer the trend will continue. Like, we'll probably see popcorn buckets till the end of time. To be fair, I am not helping. I have bought a number of popcorn buckets myself. I really need to stop. I have a problem. The episode starts with that funny scene of the legend getting ready for work at the VMC Theaters that we just mentioned. He does a bump. His name tag is Chet Vanderbilt, the fake name that he's going by to hide out from Vought because he's on their crap list after Homelander went after him because of the big purge the last year. He explains they froze his assets, he lost his apartment, so he's just doing this because he needs to earn money to pay for an apartment. Originally, the Legend is a comic book character designed to be a parody of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. A comic book legend in real life knows everything about superheroes and in the comics used to work for Vought but doesn't anymore and has a grudge against them, so he helps Butcher and the boys out a lot. And that's kind of the way they've used Paul Reiser's character on the show. He used to be Madeline Stillwell's predecessor, the VP of Vought, managing all superheroes, which is why later he tells Homelander, "Oh, I knew you when you were a kid," because he was running Vought when they created Homelander. It's also why he's so close with all the older superheroes, too. Love the way he starts to get real weird with the young manager who just wants nothing to do with it, like does not care, talking about all the crazy stuff they used to get up to back in the day. There's Turbo Rush drink machines, there's a bunch of posters for Vought movies in the background. Mother's Milk then shows up at the theater looking for information because he used to party with Bombsight. They go to one of the empty theaters and they watch a Firecracker parody of the Nicole Kidman AMC Theaters intro that's been playing for like the last 5 years, it seems like. It seems like AMC is never going to stop playing that Nicole Kidman intro. You either love it now or you absolutely hate it. The movie that Firecracker is watching on her screen inside of the ad is an in-universe faith-based movie that she starred in during a previous season a couple of years ago. And the legend starts talking to him about the V1 and the fact that they all destroyed it when he was still working at Vought, like they tried to get rid of it back during that earlier era. Mostly because it was so volatile and they found a more stable version even though it was less powerful, but also because they didn't want a bunch of immortal superheroes running around. Then we see Sage running a bunch of bad tests to recreate V1 for Homelander. She's doing this on purpose, like I said earlier, because she doesn't want Homelander to get it, so she's just pretending like she's working it, like, I can't figure it out. The Deep also learns about Firecracker, causes him to double down on sucking up to Homelander, getting even more afraid, and they ordered him to deal with their oil pipeline issue because they're going to have some problems with OPEC really soon because Homelander is going to declare himself as God, and it's going to cause OPEC to basically shut off the United States from their oil supply. We also get a really interesting moment where Sage seems absolutely surprised that Homelander says that she is smarter than Friedrich Vought, like she wasn't expecting the compliment.
There's no way Friedrich Vought is smarter than you.
There are a couple moments in this episode that you notice where Sage is completely surprised by both Homelander and Soldier Boy, like she's smartest person on the planet, but she can still be surprised. I think the reason for this is because she doesn't know everything that's going to happen. She's just able to calculate many different probabilities and what is most likely. So it's all about the most probable things to happen, not absolute 100% certainty. So when she's sure something is going to happen, she's like 80 to like 99% sure. There's still like a 1% chance that something could surprise her, which it does at the end of the episode when Soldier Boy and Homelander bond at the end of the episode and he gives him the V1. Then we see O-Father has made a very, very weird, racist-seeming Homelander commercial for their church, and the boys claim that they're about to finish the virus and they're going to sneak it into the church and release it while Homelander is on camera delivering one of his sermons in front of all the cameras so that the whole world can also see Homelander dying. Theoretically, that's their plan. Also add to that he has the V1 now, meaning that he's immortal and immune to the virus, so their plan won't even work anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Huey also tries to argue his case with Butcher, not wanting them to use the virus again because he's worried it's going to kill regular humans too, and he doesn't want Annie to die or Kimiko. When the legend shows up, he mentions Ursula Andress, talking about Starlight. She was an actress from the 60s and 70s, also in some Bond movies, one of the Bond girls. He then explains they can get to Bombsight through his lover, Golden Geisha, who Kimiko is a huge super fan of, grew up watching all of her stuff when she was a kid. She's not from the comics. Golden Geisha is just a character they created for the TV show. He says that the idea of Vought Villages, a retirement home for older superheroes that aren't able to take care of themselves. We get a real crazy scene with Ashley and Back Ashley again, who tries to get out of her deal with Sage to help her take down Homelander and end the entire world, and as a result, Sage knocks her out so that she can use Back Ashley to read Soldier Boy's mind and learn what their plan is for the V1. We also learn Back Ashley is also capable of controlling Ashley's body, so it's almost like they can battle it out over control of the body. We will see if they use this for comedy in one of the last couple of episodes, because there's only 2 episodes left after this. When they go to the superhero retirement community, you see them watching a 70s movie, Engine Number 9, to set up one of the battles later in the episode with the American Indian person who's meant to be super racist, and he's basically like a Native American firefighter in this movie. There are a bunch of posters for all these old movies that the superheroes starred in back in the day, and we start to meet some of the older superheroes and see their powers. For instance, the woman with the fire hands is called Hot Flash. What a name. She can generate flames, so it seems like she's more like Molten Man than Pyro. They find out that Golden Geisha won't talk to them about Bombsight because they're on the outs and he left her a long time ago. We find out the drama later in the episode. Basically, he wanted her to take the V1 a long time ago when she was still young so they could live together forever, but she didn't want to live forever because she felt like that would be a curse. He had grown tired of seeing his friends and lovers, his family die over the years while he was forced to continue living, so that just caused him to leave her, and they've just lost years and years together. So they make it seem like when they run into Golden Geisha in the episode, she hasn't been with Bombsight for many years. Meaning that Bombsight would have had to steal the V1 from Fort Harmony many years ago, not recently. This entire Bombsight Golden Geisha subplot during the episode is kind of hit or miss. Like, some of it works really well, and some of it just gets bogged down in pure setup for the Vought Rising prequel series with those characters that we're going to see back during the 1950s to learn about all this history that they talk about during their fight later in the episode. A lot of that fight, a lot of the exposition, I think is just purely to set up the prequel show, and I feel like it kind of pulls the episode down. Like, they're wasting a lot of time these last couple of episodes just to set up the prequel.
You were everyone's favorite from the start, especially Clara.
And even though the legend is meant to be very despicable, like he's a real dirty dog, he's worried about his old friends, and he doesn't realize Butcher's gonna unleash the virus to kill them all in a week. So it's meant to set up the idea of why he would show Homelander so much compassion later in the episode, because it's not like he hates all superheroes. He just kind of understands the way the world works, and he also doesn't want to see all of his old friends die, which he doesn't know about Butcher trying to do. So it's one of those moments where they also want to make it seem like Butcher is just as bad as Homelander, just in a completely different direction, like 2 of the worst people on the planet right now. Then the Deep films his oil pipeline commercial going against his beliefs because the fish that he loves, the aquatic life that he loves, absolutely hates it, but he's doing it because Homelander wants him to do it. He's so afraid of him. This is also meant to be similar to what happened with Firecracker's Arc 2, where she basically sold out all of her beliefs, sold her soul in service to Homelander, hoping that that would somehow fill some void inside herself. And it kind of seems like the Deep might wind up in a similar situation too, where he literally does everything to try and appease Homelander, but ultimately just winds up being disgusted by what the Deep is doing, because this episode makes it seem like some of the only ways to survive Homelander, to not get killed by him, is to not be afraid of him and impress him by doing something really crazy. 2 times we have seen him back off or be super impressed by someone. He was impressed by Butcher for wrecking his body with the Compound V tumor just to give him the ability to stop Homelander. Like, oh wow, I am impressed. And he was also impressed by the Legend, who was not afraid of him. And it kind of seems like he's disgusted by everybody who's terrified of him, like we saw in episode 1. So that is one of the quickest ways to get killed by Homelander, is for you to disgust him with your fear. Black Noir then gets the idea to use the oil pipeline as an opportunity to get back at the Deep for destroying his play by breaking the pipeline, causing a huge oil spill, losing Vought hundreds of millions of dollars potentially, creating a natural disaster and killing billions of fish. Huey and Annie have a brief moment together to offer a ray of hope in this sea of darkness, because it does seem like by the end of the episode, all hope is lost, and they want to have this moment to just shine a ray on that, like, look, not everything is going to be terrible, like there is a small chance that we make it out of this alive, but a small chance. You also notice that Huey is wearing a Billy Joel shirt, is his favorite band. They've referenced it many times on the show since season 1. Annie also loves Billy Joel. They sang it together in the car. We get that funny scene of Back Ashley trying to read Soldier Boy's mind so that they can learn what's happening with the V1. He complains about the church function tomorrow, the one that the boys were planning on releasing the virus at, and Homelander, who is now an immortal god emperor, is going to give a sermon at. And once Sage finds out that they are looking for Bombsight, she grabs her Queen Maeve notebook from previous season where she kept a lot of her plans, saying that she's cutting out her Vought tracking chip, never returning to the Seven's Tower, and starting her Phase 3 of the master plan, which is to get the boys' help. So Sage is going full Team Boys now to stop Homelander, leaving Ashley alone in the Seven, meaning that Ashley is now back in charge of Vought. That's the other side effect that you're not really thinking of right now. Every time one of the members of the Seven leaves, or one of the big people that are running Vought or in charge of really important things at Vought right now, or even the government, get killed off or leave, Ashley moves up the rungs by default, and Ashley is doing everything she can to avoid notice or avoid being killed by Homelander or anyone else. So remember, if the president winds up dying, she's the vice president, she automatically becomes the president of the United States. So wouldn't that be a hilarious ending for Ashley's character if she just survives because she stays out of everybody's way long enough to avoid being killed until all the other main characters are dealt with, like Homelander is dealt with, so she just kind of steps into being the leader of the free world.
Are you really just leaving me here?
Just imagine what Back Ashley would be like as President of the United States. They go back to the retirement community and see an old 1940s, 1950s commercial that Bombsight made for a Vought brand weight-controlled tablets, which are basically just amphetamines. If you have a grandfather or like a great-grandfather, they probably ran into stuff like this back in the day. Like, it was very common during that era. Very, very unhealthy. We find out that Golden Geisha's powers are basically force field based, like Sue Storm Invisible Woman type of powers, but she can't turn invisible, she just has the ability to create force fields. You also notice in the hallway there's an ad for a Torpedo movie that he filmed back in the day, also one of Soldier Boy's other former teammates with Bombsight who will appear on the Vought Rising show. We will see if any of those other characters that are going to be on that Vought Rising show up in present day. Maybe not, because there's only a couple episodes left and they've been using this Bombsight plot for like the last couple of episodes. And I love the comedic spin they put on this knockdown drag-out fight with the older superheroes, like Hot Flash. One has a giant nutsack, he swings around like a weapon. They make a joke about mother's milk and love sausage, and the American Indian one that he also takes out with a nut shot. Soldier Boy then goes to an address that they have for Bombsight. The door was busted in. We learned that it's a trap that Sage left to try and throw a wrench between Homelander and Soldier Boy with a laptop that has a video of him getting it on with Stormfront, who's shouting in German after she had lost her limbs, like the big fight with Ryan at the end of season 2, and she basically turned into like a human vegetable. All to try and piss off Soldier Boy, who is still, it seems like, very much in love with her. And to Sage's credit, it does work for a little bit, like just a little bit. But Homelander is correct when he says he did care about Stormfront, and he was too afraid to lose her to let her go to like another facility. That's why he kept her inside his apartment that whole time. There's a lot of Stormfront references in this episode. It just makes it feel like there's going to be even more in the last couple of episodes, and maybe they're trying to throw some kindling on the fire that is the theory that she might still be alive and show up somewhere in the last couple of episodes. Huey and Annie go to the church and they find out that Homelander is going to use every psychic superhero in the country tomorrow for something. They don't know what yet. You can let me know in the comments what you think that Homelander is going to do with all of them. My assumption is probably try to push his belief on everyone, at least in the United States, to start with, like force everyone to believe that he is God. Zoom and enhance on the wall of psychics, you can also see Kate Dunlap's photo, one of the Gen V characters, meaning that she might show up in next week's episode. We will see if this means that Marie Moreau also shows up in next week's episode, or any of the other Gen V characters who are supposed to still be crossing over, but I don't think they're going to be like a big part of the actual final episode. They'll just have like a small part to play. They wind up finding Firecracker's body, which is in the cooler. We will see if they use this body for some MacGuffin or something in the last couple of episodes, because why would they keep the body around? Why wouldn't they just get rid of it? Probably because it's going to be used in some sort of hilarious WTF scene in the next 2 episodes. Sage then surprises the boys at their lair and offers to join forces, lets them know that she had them dead to rights many times in the past and could have killed them at any point but did not, which is also addressing some plot holes previously, like if she's so smart, why didn't she just get rid of the boys a long time ago? The actual answer to that is mostly plot reasons. One of the problems of trying to write a character who's smarter than anybody else in the world is that you, the writer, also have to be the smartest person in the world to be able to write the smartest person in the world. And pretty much all Hollywood writers are not the smartest people in the world. Which is why a lot of the smartest character in the world tropes, the characters, wind up seeming kind of dumb in retrospect, like their plans do not seem that smart. Which is usually why it's not a good idea to try and introduce a character who is supposed to know everything.
I don't understand. He wasn't supposed to.
Sage reminds them that she's not worried about their virus because she's going to be hiding in her bunker, reading her books. She's the only person who can get Bombsight to show up, so they kind of need her, which is true. Black Noir then breaks the pipeline, causing the oil disaster, killing a whole bunch of the Deep's aquatic friends, also hurting the Deep. They almost make it seem like he gets choked out too because of the oil in his gills. While the fish are dying, they also tell him that they know that he betrayed them, that the Deep betrayed the fish with the pipeline commercial. Like, we know it was you, we know you're behind this pipeline. It's just meant to be a moment like Firecracker had with her pastor when she betrayed her pastor, and the Deep is now betraying his aquatic friends. Golden Geisha then explains the V1 why she didn't take it to the boys and why living forever would be a curse and life was ultimately better knowing that it does not last. Vision actually had a speech just like this with Scarlet Witch during WandaVision several years ago. They also use this so that Frenchie can learn that Kimiko and Annie don't want to take the V1 either. They don't want to live forever, but they're willing to if the boys need them to. So Frenchie, by the end of the episode, is back on Team Kimiko now. Team do not use the V1. Like, don't force Annie and Kimiko to live forever. When we go back to the mega church, we get a big fight between O-Father and Annie and learn there's this huge history between the characters because she grew up in the church being super religious, so she worshipped at this particular mega church that Homelander is going to be preaching from tomorrow. O-Father was kind of like a cool older brother to her growing up, which she liked more than Ezekiel, and he actually genuinely helped her out when she was younger. I don't know if they're introducing all this backstory between the characters because the two of them will survive into other spin-offs in the future, just because it feels weird to introduce this much backstory this late in the game, close to the finale. He tells her the story of how he ultimately lost his faith in God over time. He started believing because he never answered his prayers, and how serving Homelander has been way easier than serving God. She's supposed to be a more powerful Soup, but it seems like he's just a much better fighter, more accomplished fighter, more trained. And when Huey tricks him into backing off with the virus, it also seemed like O-Father knew exactly what was up, that Huey was bluffing and he wasn't going to use it, but he was also so afraid of potentially dying that he decided the risk was not worth it, so he just backs off. Then when the Deep and Black Noir 2 have it out, he ultimately winds up killing him after learning that he was behind the pipeline disaster. Also kind of seems horrified by his actions too, like he didn't mean it when he said they were never bros, like he genuinely was friends with him and he's upset by what he's just done. So RIP to Black Noir 2, he was a cool dude, just like the first version of Black Noir, played by the same actor technically, but another member of the Seven, a powerful one, is gone, and they are dropping like flies now this close to the finale, so let me know in the comments who you think is going to be next from the Seven. I will be very upset if the Deep ultimately winds up surviving this because he's the biggest douchebag, but sometimes big twists like that work that way where the biggest douchebags are the ones who wind up surviving. The people that you really love are the ones that ultimately wind up dying. Homelander then yoinks the Legend to find out where Bombsight is, who takes him to the boys' hideout, and the Legend is truthful when he says that he met Homelander as a child. Like I said, he was still VP of Vought when they created Homelander, so he would have actually signed off a lot of the paperwork to create Homelander. We get a little banter between Mother's Milk and Sage, where she explains a little bit of her plan for the end of the world and her disaster bunker, her little reading nook that she's creating for herself. And she is also correct when she says that the two of them, like the boys and her, are no better than each other for dropping the virus and for killing so many people, because essentially both of them are doing the same thing. She's trying to end the world, and the boys are ultimately probably going to wind up killing a whole bunch of innocent people while they try to kill all Soups.
At least I'm honest about it.
By the end of their conversation, it almost seems like Mother's Milk might be having second thoughts about the plan, like he might not want to try and drop the virus. Also now, because Homelander has the V1 and he's immune to the virus, there's just another reason to not try and use it, because that was the whole reason to begin with, because they were trying to get Homelander and they also kind of wanted to get the rest of superheroes, but all the other superheroes were kind of like lesser fodder, like, maybe them too, but really it's all about Homelander. Homelander then sees Sage's Taco Bell receipt, a lot of Taco Bell mentions this season and last season, confirming she's working with them, pissing him off even more, and the Legend sees Homelander talking to his Mindspace Stillwell angel and takes some compassion on him, which ultimately winds up getting his life saved. Like, ultimately Homelander spares him because he shows him compassion. Absolutely love their scene together. Like, Paul Reiser was fantastic in this scene. He's genuinely nice to Homelander, and the idea is that Homelander has never really felt compassion from other people, or at least on a regular basis, so he's just utterly surprised by it. Like when he just touches him, like he's trying to be nice to him, he doesn't know how to react to it because nobody ever really does this to him. All because most people are just terrified of him. Which is why I say this is one of the ways to survive Homelander is to not be afraid of him the way that the Legend is not afraid of him. Without realizing it though, the Legend gives Homelander the idea to track down Golden Geisha in Bombsight using the Vought alert bracelet, which does wind up working. We get a brief fight scene of the boys with Bombsight until Soldier Boy shows up, and this whole arc of Bombsights with his girlfriend and Soldier Boy and their 80-year-old beef seems like more story that they're creating to set up on the Vought Rising prequel. Like I said, some of this worked and some of it just kind of bogged the episode down, the season of television down in general. Like, so much of the season is dedicated to setting up this Soldier Boy stuff. We find out that they've had a feud for the last 80 years, and we'll find out more about that beef during the Vought Rising prequel in the 50s, but the idea is that Bombsight can't fly completely. He can only launch himself into the sky for brief periods, so he can drop himself like a bomb with his super hard skin, so he's kind of like Cannonball in the Marvel Universe. We eventually learned the reason for their feud is that Bombsight hated Soldier Boy for being the Golden Boy on their original team, sort of like the Justice Society to the Seven's Justice League. They also mention their history together on the team. Also, Stormfront, they keep calling Clara, who's going by Liberty during that period in the 1950s, even though we haven't seen any pictures of her in the Liberty costume since The Boys Season 2. We will probably get a trailer for that by the end of the year. But there are so many Stormfront name drops during this episode during their fight scene as well as his conversations with Homelander later. When Bombsight mentions getting Stormfront back, that also feels like them throwing even more kindling on that fire theory that Stormfront's still alive out there somewhere. Like, why would they keep mentioning her still being alive if they didn't want her to still be alive? He then gives Soldier Boy the V1 dose in exchange for depowering him so he can grow old with Golden Geisha and they'll have a life together, whatever's left of their lives. Homelander then shows up quickly and they play it like Soldier Boy might destroy the serum for a hot second, but then they bond over Stormfront, and real reason Soldier Boy explains that he's giving it to him is because it's what Stormfront would want, because Homelander is the ultimate Nazi ideal of what Stormfront and Vought, back in the day, Friedrich Vought, were trying to originally create during World War II. You remember Stormfront told Homelander this back during Season 2, and it kind of started to freak Homelander out. Like, you've gone too far when it's too crazy for Homelander. Like, even Homelander has lines that he will not cross. Weirdly, though, he is cool with pretending to be God. Like, he's not cool with Nazis, but he's okay with pretending to replace God.
And we're gonna need people like you to protect our kind.
Homelander then lasers his arm to open up a wound so that he can inject himself with the V1, and it starts to work, so his powers start going on the fritz, and he shoots giant laser beams into the sky, meaning that he is now immortal and immune to the virus and potentially unstoppable. Like, how do the boys stop him now if he's seemingly unkillable? There were actually answers for this in the comics, but I don't expect them to use any of the comic book explainers because the showrunner Eric Kripke said they weren't going to do a one-to-one copy-paste of the way the comics ended. There are going to be some similarities like Homelander in the White House, but not everything from the end of the comic storyline, so we'll see what they wind up changing from that. But we are now in the last 2 episodes, so it is time to start laying your bets on how they wind up ending this, because I don't think that anybody has actually seen the finale. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and if you spotted any Easter eggs or references to the comics or other big references, just write them below in the comments. My episode 7 trailer video should post in the next couple of days. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that, and my full episode 7 video will post next week after they release it. Everybody click here for that video. I'll update the link as soon as I post it, and click here for all my other Boys episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.